So we all know that GATE 2024 mechanical engineering paper was not made in a very proper manner, right? There were so many issues in the questions itself, the data, the units, the language, the options, typing, so many things have went wrong that when the first answer key was released, already they have given 2 marks, 2 questions of 4 marks as MTA in the first answer key itself without revision of aptitude, right? But the discussion is not over yet. There are still 3 to 4 debatable questions having about 7 to 8 marks of weightage, which are under discussion or debate, whatever you want to call it, whether you should challenge them or whether it will be marks to all or not, right? This is question number 1 is related to your welding. I'm just giving you the brief name right now. We will come to each questions one by one. There's also timestamp or chapter. If you want to specifically jump to a single question, you can do that, but I will recommend you watch it entirely. Maybe you will learn a couple of things. Not conceptually, but logic and all you may learn. So the first question that I'll discuss, I'll say one of the most controversial, is this welding one. And then there's this question of clearance, again very debatable, hot question. Then there is this question of convection, right? This is, we all know what's going to happen here, but still there are some doubts, some debate related to that. I'll quickly clear that as well. And the least debatable question where everybody knows what's going to happen is this, right? So if I keep aptitude aside, there are still 4 questions which are getting debatable. So let us start with the first question. But before that, let me give you some of the very important things about this video that you should hear and that you should understand clearly. ISC has not made, or let's not name an institute, let's just say that GATE this year was not conducted in a very good manner. There are such issues, we know about it. But while you are planning to challenge a question, or while you are planning to challenge a question for maybe MTA or maybe to change the option, whatever you're trying to do, always remember one thing: you have to remove the bias from your mind. Generally, it's a bias that we have, right? We all want that our benefit should happen, right? Whatever change is happening, I should not be in loss. I should always get the benefit. But think about it, ISC is not going to think in that way, right? ISC is not going to think about your specific loss or gain, right? They are going to apply whatever logic or concept they will apply. Your or my personal belief or personal bias is not going to affect their decision, right or not? I'm sure you agree with that. So while you are deciding to challenge a question for MTA or for change of options, you remember that your bias should not, waste your time or effort or small amount of money in doing that. You will always think कि भाई मेरा आंसर सही है, I have done wrong, या do something so that मेरा आंसर range में आ जाए, which is fine. Everybody thinks about themselves, their benefit. But ISC will not think about that, na? So while challenging any question, आप logically सोचो, you think logically. You don't think with a bias. तभी तो आपका challenge accept होने के chances will be more. If you will think logically, the chances of challenge being accepted will be more, because your reason will also be logical if you are thinking logically. But if you are thinking illogically, you have some bias in your mind that I am always right, or some bias in your mind that I should get benefited, so your reasoning for the challenge will also be wrong, so your challenge will not be accepted. So it is in your own benefit to remove the bias. In this video at least, remove the bias from your mind. Think critically, think objectively, and let us see what should happen in each of these questions. Now let us start with this welding question, and let me clear one thing for this video, that I am not going to explain each and every step and diagram of these questions in this video. This is not a video to explain the questions. You know, I'll take 20-25 minutes to explain one question. I go in so much depth and detail. That's not what the target, what the motive is. We will be discussing only the point of discussion, point of debate, point of challenge. Okay? So don't expect me to draw the diagram and explain each and every line and word for any of these questions. Here, the main problem in this question is this line: the heat required to melt the material, and specifically this 20 joule per second. The heat required to melt a material, let's focus on that for a minute. I'm sure you have covered this unit, if you have covered this unit and you have solved so many questions on this, even a lot better question than this, it's a very, I'll say it's one of the most basic questions of welding, most basic numerical of welding that is asked in GATE. Nothing very revolutionary about this question. Okay, very basic question, everyone knows how to solve it. But I'm sure you also know that heat required to melt the material, you would not have seen the unit of joule per second in any of the question that you solved. Rather, you would have seen the unit of joule per mm cube or joule per maybe centimeter cube, depends upon the question and upon the size of the weld. Because heat required to melt the material, it is in a way a property of a material. How much, it's not talking about its dimension, it is talking about the property of a material. How much heat do you need to melt a material? You have to define it in mm cube or mm cube itself. Let's be very clear in that, right? And that is why when memory based questions were given to us, students submitted joule per second, some students submitted joule per mm cube also. I'll talk about that. That's why we did not discuss this in memory based, because two different options, two different units students were saying. Logically, conceptually, here you should write joule per mm cube. Question should write joule per mm cube because it is the property of a material in a way. How much heat do you require to melt a material? It is illogical and absurd to write that in joule per second. Okay? It is not telling you about the component. How much heat do you need to melt the entire component, entire weld, entire electrode? No, it is only talking about the material, the property of the material, which must be in joule per mm cube. I am sure you know it. I am sure by now IISc or conducting institute also know this thing. They know that there is a typing mistake here. That is pretty much clear from the answer. Because if you take joule per second here, and you solve it, like you would have, majority of you would have taken joule per second and solved in exam, you would have gotten this as your answer. But IISc has given answer as 66.67, which will come when this should be joule per mm cube. Only then this answer is going to come. So that's what I'm saying. Let's first all of us agree that this is a typing mistake. We know it's a typing mistake. IISc knows it's a typing mistake because their answer is for joule per mm cube, but here second is written. Clear? This point is clear? Now, let me talk about my views. What are my views on this? What should happen? Should you challenge or not? If a question is presented in front of you, I have repeated this n number of times, that always focus on the units, which is good, which you must do. If you don't do it, it's just not possible to get a good rank. But when you will focus on the unit, here, first question will come into your mind, something is wrong. Even if you don't focus there, I have also told you to always logically analyze your answer. If your answer, whatever answer you are getting, is it logically correct or not? This answer is not logically correct because the percentage of heat lost to surrounding, heat loss is getting 99.67. Let me tell you, in many questions, we assume heat loss to be negligible, right? In many questions. It's not going to be this question, but I'm telling you that this is such a thing. If almost 100% heat you are losing in a welding process, it does not make any sense. So what should you do? You should recheck your calculation. Whenever such thing happens in exam, like here it happened, you must think here almost 100%, almost not 100, 99.67% heat is being lost. Something is wrong. Let's check the calculation once again. You will recheck the calculation. It's a very small single step calculation and you will realize that no, everything is right. I have done correct. That's where your job stops. Your job is not to change the question. Question has done some mistake. But as per the data given in the question, you solved, you got an answer which looks illogical. So what should you do? You should check once again. Maybe it's a mistake at my end. Maybe I have done something wrong somewhere due to which this high answer is coming. You checked once again. Everything looks fine. I have done everything correctly. Whatever data given with the units I have put, I have got the answer. That's it. You move on. You will put this as your answer. This is my personal opinion. I would have done this. Even after knowing that this is joule per mm cube, I am telling you, I would have put this as the answer and not I would have changed the question to mm cube and solved it. Because if you do that, I know some of the students who did it, they are getting very good rank as well. Some toppers in top 5, top 10 have changed the unit to mm cube and then solved, right? There are some very few students who have done this, but that's not the method that I would recommend. I would always say, read carefully, check your answer carefully. If something looks wrong, recheck once again, recheck one more time. But if everything you have done right as per the data, this is what the answer you are getting, what will you do? Will you change the question on your own? No, that's not something that you are expected to do. Rest assured, in such cases, IISc or conducting institute must do something about this answer. They have to consider this answer. Either they will, I'll talk about what they will do, I'll talk about. There are obviously two options that they have right now. One is that they will say that no, this is the answer which should be correct because we have given joule per second here. We have given joule per second here. IISc has given joule per second, and as per joule per second, this is the answer coming. So this answer is correct and this answer is wrong. This is one of the approach that they may follow. Other approach is, which is what the approach many students want, right? Because majority of the students, I am telling you, have done this. Majority of the student, almost 99.67% students, whatever is this percentage now, almost 99% students have got this answer, have done this. I am telling you by the data. Very few students have got this answer. Let me tell you why. Two types of students have got this. One, who are very smart, who caught the error that here it should be mm cube. And because here it should be mm cube, answer is not logical. Clearly means, if you read it, clearly it's mm cube, right? So they have changed the question, which is not something I recommend, but they changed the question and then they solved and then they got this answer. Very few students have done it. And then there are few students who missed reading the units itself. I have told so many times, read the unit, but yes, they have missed the reading the unit itself and they did not read it at all. I am telling you, no. How? I am telling you, after memory-based, when memory-based questions were being submitted, students were divided. Some students were saying that this is joule per mm cube. They did not recall it was joule per second. They even did not read it. They just read this. We all know the expression how to calculate this, right? Where do we put heat required to melt the material? We all know. So without focusing on the unit, they took this value, they solved it, they got this answer. And when memory base came, they were saying, no, it was joule per mm cube. It was not joule per second. But now what has happened? Their answer is matching with IISc key. So now they are saying, no, it should be joule per second only. We read it, it was joule per second only. But in reality, they missed it. I can tell you because submission of memory based clearly showed that thing to me. So I am discussing all of these things in detail, right? As I told you, this is not going to be a very explanatory video where I am explaining the solutions. I am talking about just the part of challenge and what I think. So far I am giving you my personal belief, my personal view on this question. So majority of the question, majority of the students, what I was telling you, have done this, and I am telling you this with the data, right? Very few students have done this. Those who did this either were very smart, which are very few people who are going to do that in GATE exam 3 hours pressure, and few students who missed reading this unit and they took it mm cube only and then they solved it and then they got this answer. Now before discussing whether IISc should or will accept the challenge, change the answer key or give MTA, let me tell you one thing and make you stress free. Change of this question will have very less impact. Means either they change option from this to this or they make it MTA. It will have very less effect on your rank. Why? Because majority students have done this. At this point of time, majority students are wrong in this question. As per the key of IISc. This is the IISc key. Majority are already wrong, right? If they change the answer, majority will go right. Will it affect their rank much? No, it's whatever plus or minus is happening. It is happening with 90-95% students, with majority. So majority students right now have lost marks in this question. If they change the key, almost majority, 90% of them will gain. Will it change their rank? No, everyone got 2 marks. Even if they do MTA, since this percent is very few who have ticked this, still it will be not much change in your rank. 90% students, 95% students rank will not change. because everyone is getting marks now. Everyone is getting marks, right? And these students are very few, 2-3%. So it's not going to change. Change of answer key or MTA, both of these things are almost same for your rank. Not sure if you understood this, what I explained right now. If you couldn't, just hear this line, that for this question, if IISc gives MTA or if they change the answer key from this one to this one, both these things are almost same for you, for your rank. This I am telling you with the data, right? Rank predictor, after analyzing the data in the rank predictor, I am telling you this point. Now let us talk about what IISc is going to do, what I feel they are going to do. Dekho. For MTA, for marks to all, there should be some criteria decided. There should be some criteria, what I feel, right? I am sure such big exam is being conducted. There will be some written points about deciding MTA, right? There will be some written rules. It's impossible. It's not going to be verbal. It's not going to be a verbal discussion between two professors or two, officers, you can say, who are conducting the exam, and then they will decide. There has to be some at least 2, 3, 4 points written on the basis of which MTA is decided. So I'm going to give you 3 reasons why IISc has more chance of doing MTA in this question rather than changing the answer. Reason number 1, whenever there is typing mistake in the question, it should be MTA. This is one of the things that I think we can only predict, we don't know. There have been such cases in GATE where there was error in, answer was not right. But even after submission of proof and everything, it was not changed. So it happens, right? Why I'm telling you this? That there is no guarantee of what happens. There is no guarantee of what IISc will do or what IISc should do. We can only guess what has more chances of working, and accordingly we can take the action. So number 1 thing on the basis of which MTA can be decided is typing error. If there is error in typing of the question, it should be MTA. Because you don't know how typing error affects students. I'll talk about that, which is my reason number 2. If there is this typing error, now assume a scenario. I am a student, I am solving this question, okay? I solved it as per the given data, I got this answer, but I did not enter it. I did not enter the answer here. Why? Because I was doubtful. Something is wrong here. This much high loss, heat loss cannot be there. Something is wrong. So I'll come back to it later. Let me mark this question for review. I'll come back to it later. But I could not come back. Time got up. Now tell me what is my mistake. I'm giving you one example because right now, as I'm telling you, majority of you have got this answer. You are not able to think about those 1 to 2% cases who got this answer, but they did not put the answer here. That's why I'm telling you, this is a bias in our mind that we only can think about, obviously, ourselves. And on the basis of that, we want things to happen. But as I'm telling you, IISc is not going to think that way. That's what I feel. They should not think about that. They should think about all such cases, all the possibilities. So there will be some students, 1-2% students, who got this answer, they got doubtful. And they thought, arey, time is less, let's mark it for review. And let's move to the next one, I'll come back on this one. But they could not come back. Maybe because time got up. Now tell me what is their mistake. It is the mistake of IISc that they gave second here, which made this as the answer, which confused me. And due to which I did not put the answer. I thought I'll come back and I could not come back. So thing is that, or I missed coming back, whatever be the case. So tell me what is my mistake. Why should I not get marks because of this? Now you are getting about those small cases about which you are not able to think. So this is reason number 2. Reason number 1 was any typing mistake in the question, data or unit should be MTA without discussion. That's logic number A. Reason number 2 or logic number 2 is this. Those students who got the answer but did not put because of this confusion, I know they should have done. Right? It is MTA. It is NAT. They are not going to lose marks. They should have entered it. But still I am telling you about those few cases. IISc has to think about those cases. They have to ensure that nobody is losing marks because of their mistake. I am losing marks because of their mistake. If I have not put 99.67 here because I was not sure, I thought I'll come back. I am losing marks because of their mistake. So why should I suffer? They should give me marks. That's what I am giving you the logic, that no one should be harmed. There is always some logic whenever you are doing things, especially for many people. There is a rule in law. On ground, how much it is implemented, that's a separate thing. But no innocent person should be punished. That's the bottom line of Indian judicial system, that it is possible that someone who has done wrong gets free. He does not get punishment. But no innocent person should get punished. That's the basis of every rule that is made in Indian judicial system. So just giving you an example. So there should be some system that no student should get harmed. Right? That is reason number 2. From that reason also it should be MTA. Another reason number 3, why should question can be MTA, and there are more chances of MTA, because ISC might think that if they make it MTA, these guys are also getting mark, right? They have done nothing wrong. Whatever data was given, they got the answer. They will get marks? Yes. This guy will also get mark, who maybe thought that, oh, some error is there, cube should be there. They are also getting mark, na? And those who did nothing here, those 1 to 2% I told you na, who got confused and they missed it, they will also get mark. So MTA will ensure that this, who are very genuinely solved and put this answer, this who got confused and they could not find, they were not sure of entering the answer, as well as this, who maybe thought about the language and figured out something is wrong and changed it and then put the answer here. All of them are getting marks. Nobody is at loss. They will not, let me clarify. You are thinking, oh, I will be at loss, sir. Currently, 66.67 they are giving. I am at benefit, sir. If they change it, I will be at loss. They should not do it. Why will they think about your individual benefit or individual loss? Out of thousands of students, they will think about all of them, right? They will take a decision which has least harmful effect. So MTA has least harmful effect for this question, considering all these 3 logics. That is why for this question, the challenge for MTA, whatever challenge you give, chances of MTA are higher than the chances of option or answer changing from this to this. And let me repeat, even if it happens, even if answer changes from this to this, it will have almost same effect as MTA for this question, because already 90-95% students have entered this answer only. So MTA or change has almost same effect on 95% students. So this is my my view, logical view, as well as what IISc may think. 3 reasons I have given you why this question has more chances of being MTA than change of the options. Let us move to the next one. Now coming to this question, again this is a very hot, highly debated question among faculties as well as students. Let me share my views on this question. So it's a question of blanking operation. I have written clearance here because that's the main point of debate here. Again, I am not going to solve this question. It's a very straightforward, direct question. I'm not going to draw the diagram. This is the clearance. This is how it works. You all know it. I'll just talk about the part of debate. And this is the part of discussion and debate. Before I come to that, we all know this expression which is to be used here. Again, nothing very revolutionary about this specific expression. We know this. Let's all agree that yes, this is an expression which is used in such questions. With this phrase, there are 2 issues which students or faculties are talking about. One is regarding the clearance, that it does not mention what type of allowance it is. They should mention that it is a clearance allowance. This is what has been talked about. That clearance word is not mentioned. If that is the logic, then unit also is not mentioned. Why we are not talking about units? In fact, unit is a much more important thing than writing clearance here. This is the question where clearance concept needs to be applied. How are you going to get the answer without that? This is not the allowance of metrology. Unit is not mentioned here. Unit is not mentioned here. Issue number 1, let me even write for clarity. Issue number 1 of allowance, here unit is not mentioned. This is not the question of your metrology where you can add or subtract the allowances like this, like this. It can be if unit was mentioned, but unit is not given. What do you think is more important? Writing clearance here or giving units here? Which is more important? This you need to decide. If you think, no, don't write unit, just write clearance allowance, then we will put it here, then you are wrong, because fundamentals of addition and subtraction are not agreeing with you. Fundamental of addition and subtraction says that to add or subtract two things, their units should be of the same dimension. Here it is dimensionless, 0.04. How are you going to put 0.04 here? Suppose clearance is written here. Forget about it. Suppose clearance is written here. Clearance is written. Now tell me, would you put that in this expression? Would you use 0.04 to add or subtract in either of these expressions directly? How? Units are not given by. So this is a very basic thing. This does not require very high concepts to just figure out this, to agree to this. That directly allowance you cannot add or subtract here, because this is not a question where unit is given to you like we do in metrology. That's correct. And that's what I'm saying. If mm, centimeter, something was written here, then it was fine. You could have done that. And even if you chose to change it, you assume some unit. How did you assume? Whether it will be mm or cm. How did you assume? So basically, whenever you are trying to use this as directly clearance allowance or to add or subtract here, you are assuming some unit in this question. I don't agree with that approach for this one. So that is why I am not saying that this cannot be challenged so far. Listen to me carefully. I am telling you what reason to give to challenge. If you want to challenge, this reason is not correct. I'll prove it to you again in some minutes. If you want to challenge, you can go ahead, but use some other reason. This reason cannot work. This reason just does not match well, because units here are not given. You cannot tell that allowance need to be added or subtracted here. Unit is missing there. Okay, so what other reason could you use? Some of the students are using the reason of radial or diametral. Let me show that to you. So issue number 2 is regarding radial or diametral. That we are going to use the formula of clearance is equal to allowance multiplied by thickness. But this clearance, if you put here, which is radial clearance, you will get a different answer. But if you take this clearance as diametral clearance, then you will not multiply it with the 2. You will directly put whatever you are getting here, and then you will get a different answer. So now that is the next point about which this question students are wanting to challenge. Now let me address that. Question has not given you any expression. This expression, question has not given you. Right? This is empirical relation. Na? Question has not given you that expression. Question is not asking you to use that expression. If you know some other expression where you can use this allowance without unit, use it. You yourself have decided to use this expression, which is correct, which is the correct expression. Let me write it here actually. This empirical relation clearly tells that radial clearance is equal to allowance multiplied by thickness. In fact, we know it, that this radial clearance is a percentage of thickness. Even GATE itself has asked such questions so many times, where this is allowance directly rather than mentioning allowance. At least percentage they have asked so many times, and we know it is 2 to 10%. Clearance is, radial clearance is 2 to 10% of thickness. We know it. GATE has asked such questions. So my point is, let's forget all this. Let's again come back to this formula of allowance. In this formula, which is empirical formula, it is radial clearance. Let's be very clear in this. This is radial clearance in this empirical formula. If you chose to use this formula, GATE has not given you, na? In the question, they have not given you this formula. You yourself decided, because you know that there is some formula like this. And even if you don't know, you figured out that is a percentage of thickness. No unit is given. What will I do with this? Thickness has been given to me. I need clearance. I need clearance. Question has mentioned thickness, and it has mentioned something which is without unit. This should be in dimension of length. This should be in dimension of length. What to do about it? This is 4 by 100, almost 4%. I know that it is 2 to 10%, clearance is 2 to 10%, radial clearance is 2 to 10% of thickness. Even if you do not know this empirical relation, It is not a rocket science to figure out what to do with this dimensionless, unitless number. There is just this way in which you can put if you apply the things that you already know, if you even apply the concepts of PYQs. Anyway, coming back to what I was telling you, that here in this question, you have not been given any expression, right? If they gave you the expression, some random expression, and they did not define this clearance, whether this clearance is radial or it is diametral, then it was an issue. Listen to me carefully, because students are saying that every time whenever this question has come in GATE, means whenever questions of clearance are asked in GATE, whether GATE mechanical or GATE PI, it was clearly mentioned radial or diametral, right? Now you just pause and think, in this question, where do you think it is possible to write radial or diametral? Just read this question. I'll just use this one for you. Read it. Clearance word, which I have used here now to define this question. Clearance word is not even used anywhere in the question. Read it. Blanking operation performed on C20 steel sheet, circular disc, diameter, thickness, allowance provided, punch size is this much, round off. Even if the question wanted to write clearance somewhere, there is no word. Even if the question wanted to define radial or diametral, there is no mention of the word clearance. There is no place where they could have done that even if they wanted. So that's not the issue. Question has not given you any expression. If they would have mentioned an expression, C is equal to some 80 or chalo, C is equal to 80, you already know, but some complicated expression they would have mentioned, suppose. It has happened in GATE once. And they did not define whether it is radial or whether it is diametral. Then it is a point of discussion, then it's a point of challenge that you have not mentioned how am I supposed to dream that this is going to be radial or diametral. Although there is a way to do it, I will discuss that when I will discuss this question in detail. I will tell you some tricks also, that even if some empirical relation comes and they don't mention about radial or diametral, how to figure it out. It's a thing of separate video. But if in this question they would have given some expression without telling radial or diametral, then you debate. How the hell am I expected to know whether it is radial or diametral? But here they have not given any expression. Na bhai, you yourself have used this expression. And now you are saying that I have used this expression, but I don't know it was radial or diametral. So it is your fault, right? That you use this expression without knowing that this is the expression for radial clearance and not diametral clearance. It was your choice to use this expression. And now once you have used this expression, whatever you are getting by multiplying these two, it is radial clearance only. And now you will say that I used this expression, but I did not know it was radial. Then it is not the fault of the question, right? You chose to use this expression, question did not give you this one. So that is why on the basis of radial or diametral also, this question has very less chances of being, accepting your challenge. So by the allowance logic, I also explained you why challenge does not make sense to me, and why this logic also I told you why challenge does not make sense to me. Now it is your choice. There should be no regret in your life, right? I resigned from Indian Oil so that I don't have any regret. You can also spend 500 rupees to not have any regret, right? If you want to challenge, go for it. Challenge it. I am telling you my views. As per me, it is not much likely that your challenge will be accepted to change the answer or to increase the range. Increase the range, maybe I don't know. It depends. I will not say that I am the expert of, I know everything what ISC will do. Nobody can make such challenges, right? In GATE, it has happened so many times that there was mistake in the answer, but still it did not change. So who can guarantee? Nobody can guarantee. Only suggestions can be given, and it is my suggestion to you that chances of challenge being accepted in this question is less. Still, if you are confident कि नहीं होना ही चाहिए, or if you obviously want your benefit, that is always there, right? You can challenge for your benefit. If you feel that my benefit is going to happen with this, go ahead, challenge it. If you think this range can be increased, it is my benefit, Nobody can stop you from doing that. But my view on this, I have told what needs to be done. Now, coming to this question, this is not as much controversial or debatable as the last two ones. We all know that this should be marks to all. All options of this question are wrong. Okay, again, as I am telling, I am not explaining each and every question. If I'll start drawing all the diagram, I'll start showing all the graphs, it will just be distraction from what we are trying to discuss. I'll focus on what specific thing we are about to discuss, which is option number D. Everyone knows about option A, B, C. These are not true, right? We already know. Option D is the point of discussion, right? Option C says that for constant wall temperature, and wall is higher in temperature than the bulk mean temperature of the fluid, dt by dz, T is bulk mean temperature, increases exponentially with distance along x. For now, forget exponentially, forget it. Let's just talk about increase. That's the second thing now. Whether it increases linearly or parabolically or exponentially, that's secondary. Let us first decide whether is it even going to increase or not. If it is not going to increase, this word is useless, na? How is it increasing? That's second thing. It does not increase, so it's wrong. Simple, right? Now, this is very common thing. We all know this. We have discussed about the graph. I have shown you the graph as well, the variation as well. We know about it. I am just going to show you different sources, just for your own clarity, as well as for a very interesting thing that I want to share with you. So different books, standard books, very high level standard books, even from where gate questions are framed. I'll talk about it. So this is from Cengel. This is how the graph is, right? This is from In Corpora. This is how the graph is. This is from Leonhard. Again, a very good book. This is how the variation is. And this is from the book of Somsar, right? I'm sure you know. He's no more in the world, but IITs and GATE constantly use their books to frame questions. And even if you focus on this one, I can tell you that this is the exact same source which has been used to frame this question. I'll show you how. Okay. So I'll come to that. Firstly, let's have a look at all of them. This is how it is varying. This is how it is varying. There's no confusion. This is the direction of flow. This is the direction of flow. X is the direction of flow, right? Here it is just showing you the length. Here X is the direction of flow. Here Z is written. Z, just like this question, Z is written, right? So there is no confusion that along the flow, this is how it varies if wall temperature is more than bulk mean, if TW is more than TM. Let's come to this specific graph in slightly enlarged view. As I told you, this is the same source, I can tell you, which has been used to make this question, right? It's very much clear from the notation you check, right? Any of the standard sources which are used to make questions. These are the main 4 books which can be used to make questions, right? All of them are using T. It is using TM, right? If you look at this condition, TW more than TM, this is the only, this condition, no? They have given, no? Where? This is the only book where this condition has been mentioned in the exact same way. This is the only book where Z has been shown. Z for the flow direction. Otherwise, X is used. Why I am telling you this, I will come to that. So you can see that this is the exact same notation which are used, and it is from the book of Somsar, which is multiple times used to frame the questions for GATE. Okay. He was a very renowned professor in IIT Kharagpur. So now you look at this graph. Now let's come to this graph, right? And why I am talking about this, that this is Z or this is TM, because there are some solutions which I have seen where they are changing the direction of Z. What I mean to say is, if flow is along Z, so whatever discussion we are doing of temperature variation has to be on this plot only. You cannot change Z. Some are showing Z in the opposite direction just to fit some of the answer. That's not how it can work, right? You cannot choose minus Z axis to decide the slope. For example, I'll give you a very basic example. Suppose X and Y axis are given like this. If I ask you that plot this, what would you do? Would you plot it here? Would you make minus z-axis and then you will make some graph to plot it? No. You are going to take plus x plus y, x's only, and you will plot it that this is the slope at this point, this much is the slope, right? So if question has given you that flow is along z direction, means it is along the plus z direction only. We cannot take minus z direction on our own, right? That's not how the slope calculation works. So this is along plus z direction only. Let's be very clear in that. Just to fit one of the answers, we should not change the method of calculation of slope. So that's why I'm stressing on this part, that this is the book from which I am telling you it has been taken. Not the first time it has happened. Multiple times this book and other books of Som sir have been used to take questions, right? You can clearly see this is the direction of flow. Clearly Z is plotted here. Got it? So I'm sure your confusion regarding graph is gone, that which is the plot, which is the graph to be used. This is the correct one. What all other sources have told you, that is the correct one. And now after this, there should not be any confusion, because you can clearly see that at this point, slope is this much. Let me quickly use a different color. At this point, this much is the slope, right? This much is the slope. But as you progress, the slope keeps on decreasing. Slope has decreased. So along the flow, along this direction, along z direction, the slope of this is decreasing. Here it is high, there it is low. So option is saying increase. Clearly it is wrong. Exponential is next level thing. Next level means next step thing. If it is not even increasing, what's the matter of discussing exponential or not? Now, why this question was framed? I think they were framing the question, trying to frame a very good question, but eventually in this option they messed up, right? Because so many things they have included in this question, which are making this language even more illogical. I'll talk about it. Here they have defined hydrodynamically fully developed laminar flow. Means this condition should be true for all of these. It is hydrodynamically fully developed laminar flow, means this should be true for all of these. But here they have mentioned thermally developed flow. Here they have mentioned thermally fully developed flow. Here they have not mentioned the thermally fully developed flow. And they have said for constant wall temperature of the duct, that is constant. Not an issue, option is wrong anyway. But here it is confusing some of the students again. They are saying that, sir, here, just listen to me carefully, it's the doubt of some fraction of students, that here it has not mentioned that it is thermally developed. So it can be, maybe it can increase exponentially at entrance region. Getting what I'm trying to tell you? This option does not mention that it is thermally fully developed. So maybe when it is not thermally fully developed, when it is in the entrance region, from thermal point of view, there it may increase. That's one logic. But remember, it is happening for hydrodynamically fully developed laminar flow. So even if you want to analyze this option, you have to keep in mind that this is anyway true. This is true for all the four options. So if you do that, this is suppose the point where it is getting hydrodynamically fully developed. And if you want to analyze option D, considering that this is valid, so these are the three possible options. Either this point means where thermally fully developed, the flow is getting thermally fully developed, that point either will be here on the left, or it will be just here, or it will be on the right side, depends upon the Prandtl number of the fluid. If you notice, question is talking about this region, when it is thermally fully developed, this region. So in this region, if you divide it, three possibilities, if you divide the three possibilities, for this one, hydrodynamically fully developed is still thermally fully developed. It is getting thermally fully developed here. For this one also, both of them are getting developed at the same point. That will also not change your answer. Means entry length is nowhere coming. This section is still in thermally fully developed region. This section is still in thermally fully developed region when both of them are developing at the same point. And for this, a very small fraction is there where it is hydrodynamically fully developed but thermally not developed. Very small fraction. What do you think? Out of so many possibilities, 1, 2, Three possibilities. In third possibility also, there is very large range where it is fully developed, very small range where it is hydrodynamically fully developed but thermally fully not developed. What do you think? This option D is talking about that specific case. No, there are so many other cases to consider. You cannot say that I will not consider this case, not consider this case, even this region I will not consider. I will just focus on this and answer based upon this. And there also, is it increasing or not, it is unpredictable. So that is why it's a clarity. Maybe for some of you who want to do something with this question on the basis of this thermally or hydrodynamically fully developed, don't try to do that. It's not making any sense. So this is about this question. It should be marks to all. The language of the question of the option is not correct. This should decrease. This slope should decrease with distance along z direction along the flow. Coming to the final one, which is the least debatable. This is the least debatable. Everybody knows that this option needs to change. Currently, this statement is true. Okay, I'm not wasting your time to explain it. You know it. For this one, what they have done is, answer is coming out after calculation q by 1 plus 2 root 10. Okay, this is what the answer is coming. I am sure, again, it's a typing mistake like so many other places. So what they have done is that instead of root, they have multiplied. So when you multiply 2 with 10, you will get 20 plus 1, 21. So you will get this answer q by 21. If by some writing mistake or typing mistake, you have considered root to be a multiplication sign and then you got this answer. I'm sure you all know it's not a very difficult question. Everything is given as same. I think diameter is also same. Length is given. This is 10 times. Friction factor is same. You just put it in the expression of FLV square by 2GD. The V is going to be Q by A is going to be pi by 4D square. You open the bracket, you cancel it. So many times we have discussed this. I'm sure you know about it. Nothing great about this question. Ki, wow, kya question hai? No, it's a very normal average question. The only thing they messed up here, because of which this answer is not going to come. 1 is false. Statement 2 is true. So 1 is false, 2 is true. This should be the right answer. Currently, I think they have given both as true. Currently, this is what they have given. So these are the 4 questions which I wanted to give you clarity about. This one, option should change. This one, marks to all. This one, clearance one, I explained. I am leaving up to you. If you want to challenge, go ahead, you challenge it. As per me, chances of challenge being accepted either by the radial diameter logic or by the allowance logic are very, very less. And finally, this welding question, as I explained you, what I think ISC is going to do. Obviously, many of you will challenge it. I feel ISC is going to give marks to all in this question. That's it from my side. I know that some of you may not agree with what I said, because as I told you, we all have bias in our mind and it is all right. We all are humans. Humans have done such a great mistake, so many mistakes, right? Even such a prestigious institute has done so much mistakes. So human mistakes are acceptable, right or not? So you go ahead, don't bother about it. If you feel it should be challenged, there should be no regret in your life. Go ahead, challenge it. And I wish you all the best. Regarding all these questions, once this is done and dusted, we'll discuss all of these questions. There are some very, very good questions in mechanical as well as in XC. There are some couple of good questions. I will discuss those questions in detail in the upcoming videos. I wish you all the best.